Right, here we are, yet another episode of 5 in 15, the AHSN Humour Research podcast, cutting edge, as it were, with an amazing co-host. This time, not quite Bill Wisconsin, but who is it?
I'm real, all right. I'm Jessica Milner Davis, and I'm a research associate here at the University of Sydney, and I'm the coordinator of the Australasian Humour Studies Network, AHSN.
Fantastic. And we've got yet another guest with us. Guest, might you explain who you are and what your name is?
I'm Goh Abe, and I am a humour researcher based in Japan and teaching at the Japanese University. I'm originally trained in cultural anthropology, but now I have been doing research and humour studies.
Perfect. And with that, let's go straight into it. 5 questions, 15 minutes, and go, Jessica. You've got the questions.
Go-san, one of your many research journal articles is called Lessons Learned about Humour from J.C.H. Davies. That's Christy Davies, the famous, now sadly deceased humour scholar, and examples in his home collection. This came out in the journal Humour. Can you tell us what the article was about?
Oh, yes, I'm happy to. The article was about my reflection of Christy Davies' worldview on humour, or I should say his philosophical approach to humour studies, through conversation, a kind of a tutorial session for me at his own home and at Reading University a long, long time ago.
And what were the lessons learned?
Well, as for the title lessons, I have interpreted lessons in 2 ways. First, as a humor lesson, a lesson as a kind of learning. Second, a lesson as a living lesson, a guiding principle for human life, or I should say for academic research, for academic inquiry.
Terrific. Go-san, you're a humour scholar based mainly in Japan. So what's it like studying humour in Japan?
Australia, for example, consists of poor ethnic groups of immigrants like US. But in Japan, we do have a lot of people from overseas working, but not as immigrants, who are allowed to stay as citizens. So I am doing research, humor around the world, and I have to travel all over the world to collect the data and meeting people and asking people living there. So in a way, by doing research around the world, I have come to realize the importance of comparative perspective. For example, once I find examples of all kinds of different ethnic jokes overseas, and then I come back and reflect why we don't find any of those in Japan, for example, then I'll be able to look for reasons for the lack of such types of jokes in Japan. In this way, I'll be able to look upon again our Japanese culture and society in terms of humor, in contrast to the examples in overseas. And therefore, I should say I've come to recognize the importance of comparative perspective in humor studies.
That's wonderful. So, working along those lines, what is your current research project?
I have written 18 columns on humor around the world for Japanese newspapers. And I would like to publish them in a book form in the near future. And when I looked upon what I have written about 18, I have found 4 of them on my columns on ethnic humor around the world were about Australia and New Zealand. So I have come here to collect update information to add to the columns I wrote about 12 years ago and to revise them for the publication in the future on the Australian New Zealand jokes columns. So I'm here at this time, been working on how to publish, revise and update 18 columns on the Australian New Zealand jokes in a book.
We look forward to seeing the book. I do hope it's likely that there will be an English edition in the future.
Hopefully, yes. But first I publish in Japanese first.
Understood.
Well, so it's a yes. It's a conditional yes.
A conditional yes. Goh contributed a chapter to the volume that I edited called Understanding Humour in Japan. That's a very special chapter, and it delves deeply into laughter in the Japanese culture. Can you tell us a bit about it, please?
Yes. I have written down on the rituals of laughter among Japanese people. Especially, we have 8 laughter festivals all over Japan, and the research I have done on ritual of laughter is one of them. And laughter is an important aspect of humor in Japan. For example, for ISHS, it stands for International Society for Humor Studies. Or here in Australia, you have AHSN, Australian Humor Studies. In 2 of those professional associations, you have used the word humor. But on the other hand, we have a humor society, but it is called JSLHS, a Japanese Society for Humour and Laughter Studies. In this way, it shows that laughter is a very important aspect of humor studies for us. And Dr. Davis, Jessica Davis, quoted a very interesting quote from Bahutin that goes like this: laughter has a deep philosophical meaning. It is one of the essential forms of the truth concerning the world as a whole, and in it, the world is seen anew for new no less, and perhaps more profoundly than when seen from the serious point. So in this manner, laughter has a very important function as well. And that is one of the reasons why I'm interested in the use of laughter among the Japanese laughter festivals.
Bakhtin was a wise writer, and he, of course, was studying laughter back in the medieval European period. It's fascinating to find these parallels. You've had a long career to reflect on and research humour, Goh. Can you tell us what advice you would give to early career researchers now starting out to study humour and laughter, as you've importantly reminded us?
I have 2 messages to tell those young, aspiring, ambitious researchers who are starting their career. First, I would tell them, seeing is believing. This is very important, that we do research by reading books about the country's history, politics, society, economy, and so on and so forth, to understand the present. And this is a very essential part of the research. But yet, in order to understand present, I strongly recommend that you do a field research on site, even domestically and overseas as well. If you're investigating something about the topic related to the foreign countries. And by doing so, we can learn a lot by interviewing and seeing and collecting data on site. And that is my first message. And by doing so, you can deepen your understanding what you learn from the books, adding with what you have found out on site, collected by on your foot.
What a great first message. I think for a moment I was afraid you were going to say, don't do it. Don't do humanities research. If I make it, because it's amazing we're going through these questions so quickly, and I must applaud you for your discipline. That is amazing. Usually you have to wrangle the people to stick to the time. If I can just follow on from that question once more, what would you say to people saying, well, humour research, it's such a wide field. Why did you actually then start out on your journey in humour research?
Well, first of all, as I said, I've been trained in social sciences, especially cultural anthropology. Certainly we do study domestic-wise, but at the same time, we are very much interested what the people around the world are doing. So I started investigating the cultures in Micronesia and the United States as well. And by doing so, I gained a multiple perspective, interdisciplinary perspective to explore our human conditions. And somehow I came along with kind of jokes being transmitted to me from one of my friends in the United States. And I found that the humor has been the part of the American ways of life. And then that was my first encounter with the actual use of humor in their daily lives. And then from there, I began to expand my research and humor studies around the world.
So you got hooked early on. Well, it's never too late or too early, I guess. Which brings us to the last question. Jessica, you have it.
Well, I think you had 2 lessons or suggestions for early career researchers. Can you tell us about the second one?
Second one, my second message is to, first of all, know or understand your own cultural background firsthand before you start doing research overseas. And that is because we're interested and curious about, finding out what's going on around the world. But at the same time, in the end, you really have to come to explain what's there in your own culture to tell other people this is the way we think and we deal with from our own perspective, combined with the perspectives we gain by studying people overseas. And it's kind of 1 + 1 is not 2, but maybe 1 + 1 would be 3 in the end.
Well, we never know. My maths, I have no idea if that's true or not. Right, and I would say that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for participating in our little podcast here. Jessica, thanks so much to you. Thanks to you, and that's it. Thanks, dear listener, for sticking around for yet another episode.
Humour is infinite. You'll never be bored.
Thank you very much.